So in the last video, I talked about one example of how culture seems to be kind of devolving in this country with African American, Black American entertainment, and how they've kind of largely, by and large, gone from unarguably positive role models to arguably negative role models. Which negatively, in a lot of ways, negatively portray their culture in a way that other people in this country who are not understanding and who have a history of being racist or a history in their past, in their families, of using their misunderstanding to disparage an entire race of people, might not understand and might take as a cue to react negatively in a horribly disgusting fashion. Is that an excuse? No. No. It is not an excuse. It is absolutely disgusting, and there is no excuse for it. But at the same time, it doesn't help when you're not producing positive role models. Now, of course, you shouldn't have to. There's no argument. You should be able to produce whatever the hell you want to as a culture. I mean, it should be entirely free. I personally believe that. But in this country, with the history that this country has, and just my personal belief is with how hard that African Americans have fought tooth and nail for respect and for understanding and for freedom and for equality in this country. More than anything, equality. How hard they've fought in the past. Honestly, it's like spitting in the face of your elders to produce the kind of content you do nowadays. And, the reason it's spitting in the face, the reason I say that is because it doesn't respect what they've gone through. It doesn't respect what they did, the progress that they made in trying to erase hundreds of years of racism. All it does is to allow people to revert, allow all of these people in these situations that your ancestors fought so hard to convince, so hard to convince that racism was wrong and that what they were doing was wrong and the way they were behaving towards your entire race was wrong. You erase that. Maybe not entirely, but you erase a lot of it when you produce images that, reflect exactly what a certain percentage of the population thought you were like and believed you were like, and used against you in racist terms and derogatory terms in the past to disparage your entire race. You're taking that and you're reproducing it. You're reproducing a lot of the images that they expect to see after the fact, after you've kind of in some way convinced them that what they're doing is wrong. You then are now sadly showing them what they need to see in order to be convinced that what they were doing was actually, in their eyes, right. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that although you should be free to create the entertainment and whatever you want, in whatever way you want to, that sadly in this world and the way it is, if you want to respect how hard your ancestors fought for recognition in this country, that you owe it to them to produce something that would be reflective of what they fought for. And I honestly don't feel that you're doing that right now. I honestly feel that that black Americans, by and large, have dropped the ball on that. But I don't think that's what caused it. I don't think it's black Americans. Black Americans are the problem. Racist, blah, blah, blah. Because honestly, that would be a racist thing to say. No, I think it's media overall in this country. If you look at advertisements and the way that they're bombarded on us nowadays, and have been bombarded on us in the past few decades, just ad after ad after ad after ad thrown in your face. They're targeted ads. You know what a targeted ad is, and that's a term for advertising companies. Um, do you work for an advertising company? No, but you know what a targeted ad is. It's something that was designed to be targeted directly at you, or at someone like you, or at somebody else. It's targeted at somebody. It's targeted at a certain demographic. This mentality creates demographics. This mentality creates borders in race relation, in gender relation, in sex relation, in all relations in culture. That mentality creates borders. It creates walls to block communication. They claim it's designed to communicate, but I would argue that it creates borders and walls because um, what it does when you tell somebody, when you show somebody that you're targeting something at them, you give them the understanding that they can be targeted, and that if they can be targeted, that they can do what you're doing. And you give them the concept that not only can they do that, but that it's okay to do that because you're doing that. I heard someone say recently that a selfish consumer society is a healthy consumer society. Um, I heard it on the documentary. But the point is, they want you to be selfish. In a consumer society, advertisers want you to be selfish because if you're selfish, you're going to buy their product. If you want something for yourself that you don't need, that's like the definition of selfishness. And that's what advertisers are trying to sell you, something that they want you to want and want you to feel like you need, even though you don't need it. And so you see that in advertisement, and increasingly, you see it in all forms of media, artistic media, movies, television shows, comic books, everywhere. It's everywhere. You watch a TV show and you see them talking about, well, perfect example, in the show The Office, one of the Christmas episodes, um, Michael is talking about beaches, a resort type thing that he plans to go to with his girlfriend over the vacation. Um, that's a paid product placement. That was, not something designed for the television show by the creators. It might have been cleverly placed in there, that they might have gotten the creators to cleverly place that in there, but it was a paid product placement by beaches. People don't realize it's in our entertainment now. It's everywhere you look. And when it has reached that point of saturation, when you don't even think about it, you don't even put two thoughts about it. When it's reached that point of saturation, um, it starts to reach the subconscious, basically. You're not thinking about it, but it's in your subconscious that if advertisers are now in a media arena of arts and literature, which is so meaningful to us emotionally, then we start to relate advertising and things like that, and the messages that we're really being told by them, you start to relate to them emotionally, which is exactly what they want. But it's not really that helpful, because when you start to relate to them emotionally, then subconsciously you start to think that what they're doing as an advertising company is all right to do. And what they're doing as an advertising company is just trying to make money. What they're doing as an advertising company is trying to make you a selfish, lazy consumer who just wants what he wants, or he or she wants, before the other guy gets his. Um, they want you to believe things that you're not going to believe, but you know, some ads work, some don't, but in the end, they've already gotten you, because they've already convinced you to be a consumer, and they've already given you everything you need to be a consumer. There's nothing technically wrong with being a consumer. I think a consumer society, I don't know, could it work? I don't know. It's a discussion topic, I guess. But it's off topic for what I'm trying to say here, because really what I'm trying to get, the point that I'm trying to get to, is that we see what they do and we think that it's okay to do it. They target us, we can target others. We see that behavior and we mimic that behavior. We mimic their selfishness, we mimic their targeting, we mimic their desire to create subgroups and subcategories. And that, through stuff like that, we have devolved as a society, as a culture, back to like what we were 50, 60 years ago, when we believed things like, women were supposed to stay in the kitchen, or, you know, women are always supposed to look beautiful and be skinny. Maybe we don't believe it, but subconsciously our desires, whether you be heterosexual or homosexual or whatever sexual orientation you be, your desires are being affected by the media that you see, because media has become such a huge part of who we are as a people. So we see that reflected, and we see that it's okay to do that. Now, it's different when it's something like video games, and you can obviously make a disconnect and be like, okay, obviously I'm not going to go kill all these people. But behavioral traits, specifically behavioral traits, are most definitely mimicable, and most definitely do get mimicked, particularly subconsciously. It doesn't really work with video games, because video games are just one form of media. They aren't the people telling us the story. They are the story. You know what I mean? They're the story being fed to us. The people telling us the story are the ones feeding our subconscious. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And they're the ones telling us what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. Um, and what we see uh, reflected is what we then take in subconsciously to be something that, oh, if they can do that, I can do that. When you see somebody making a racist statement, making a statement about Mexicans, wetbacks, or making a racist statement about African Americans or black people, I feel like that's a return to that mentality, this selfish mentality that I'm a part of a special group, and my group doesn't believe that your group should be like this. So I'm going to force my will upon your group. And just to get away from race and sexism, let's get into politics in the next video because this is getting long. But I know how much you guys love my political discussions. You hate them. It's not going to be all about politics, but I'm just going to use politics as an example of how, politics and religion as an example of how this mentality of targeting and placing people into subgroups and enforcing our will upon others, which has been seen in our history in the past, but is not something that we really want to admit we are repeating right now, right this very second. So I just want to talk about that in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Catch you later. Peace.